Hello? Hello? Oh. So, yeah, I think my camera is not right now, but what's good, everybody? Welcome to the Quest for 18 podcast. I'm joined by Earl, and of course, our co host joining in a bit. And yeah, like I said, everybody, drop any questions, hot takes, or opinion down in the chat. And like I said, we'll do our best to get through them. At least today's rundown will be mostly previewing, at least recapping the Lakers' previous preseason games. And then also, we will be talking about at least the Lakers and tier ranking them from S to A, giving our updated tier list, and as well we'll be also previewing the Lakers versus Timberwolves season opener and many other Laker news around these rumors going around the NBA. So yeah, so how's everybody doing?
Test, can y'all hear me? All right, cool. Had a
Yeah,
few technical difficulties, but nothing can stop Quest for 18. I'm locked in. Yeah, I think there definitely has been a lot of rumors on the radar this afternoon slash morning for some people, depending on where you're at in the world. A lot of trade rumors, but then again, we're used to it. Will it happen? Not sure, but I am excited to talk about it. Yeah, but preseason has been it's been all right. I mean, I like what I've seen from the main guys, but our concerns are definitely showing up revolving around our rotation players. Doesn't look that great. So I'm excited to talk about some of the games we've seen so far. But overall, I'm doing great. Hopefully, you guys are as well.
All right. I finally made it. I had also some slightly technical difficulties, but as long as we're good now, we're good. Um, there's been a lot of noise, a lot of rumors going around, going around surrounding the Lakers roster. It will be interesting to look at that. Some of the names I've been seeing are definitely some of the names of all time. And we'll discuss what that means later. And there's also been some preseason action. Preseason, there is a game today. I believe it's against the Suns. I gotta clarify that, but I'm pretty sure it's against the Suns today at 7 p.m. And we had a Tuesday game against the Warriors, which again we lost to. Um, Obviously it is just preseason, so I'm a little more focused on the fact that our team looks better than they did last season in terms of just like in terms of tactics and playing chemistry. But obviously it's just not reflected in the fact that we're 1-3 right now. So we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you. I think definitely outside looking in, I know a lot of people aren't the fans of Lakers. They like to see our downfall. But if you watch the games, I feel like the system works well. Like there's a lot of off ball movement. Guys are getting a lot easier opportunities to score than we did last year. I think the problem is the players that are being inserted into these opportunities isn't really a great showcase, especially off the bench. So I'll wait for Allen. I'll just name drop. I feel like might as well Gabe Vincent. I, I'm sure we'll do our tier list again later, but he's definitely fallen off my tier list all the way to F. I just feel like he he gets easy opportunities, but he's not a consistent player so far from what I've seen with him on the Lakers. It definitely sucks to say. I was kind of giving him the notch, trying to give him a little bit of credibility, but he's getting easy opportunities in this JJ Redick system, and he's just not finishing. Like he's not capitalizing on those chances. So along with that, I do have another complaint. I feel like Max Christie, as far as like offense production, he doesn't really get his looks. Like when he's in those lineups, it's almost like he only gets throwaway buckets, which is a little bit annoying to me at times because if he is supposed to be your first man off the bench, number 6, a man on the team, then he needs easy opportunities to score just as much as everybody else. So those are kind of the two things I noticed, especially from last game. Yeah, that's my thoughts. But I know I was trying to be optimistic. But looking at it from the outside in, I don't know if this team has what it takes. I don't know. Obviously it's gonna be a long season, but I'm getting a little bit worried, Alex.
I mean, I'm a little worried too. I get what you mean because we say it all the time that it's just preseason, and I literally said it 2 minutes ago. But you get to a point where our record is 1-3, and like even though in theory we should be better, it's not translating into the scores. And like the regular season is about translating it into games and translating it into scores as well. So it's like it's kind of like asking the question of like when do we start to worry? Um, some people might take the entire preseason to just not care, and like that's completely fine. honestly, especially because there are still some improvements. But like I do have slight concerns still. Like you said, Gabe Vincent has been slowly falling off game by game. We put him all the way at B in our first tier list, and like I genuinely thought that he was showing improvements as a two-way guy, but then like I feel like he hurt us and then like decided to play bad out of spite. I don't know what happened. Dropping him down to F, I'm still like honestly, it might be. No, it's okay, Earl. I put him at B. You said A minus though. That was a little crazy, but no, I mean just no, not to air out old mistakes, but but dropping him down to F will definitely be an interesting conversation. He's definitely like not in the passing grade level right now. In my opinion, he had a major fall off. And then what you said about Max Christie is really true. I think if he is going to be our sixth man, he needs to like allow himself to be a little bit more involved in production. We really rate him because he has like a high two-way potential, but part of the offensive potential is supposed to be being able to create, is supposed to facilitate, is supposed to like allow himself to get highly involved in a way that's like not overly selfish. And I think that's still something that he's figuring out. He might have had it figured out earlier had Darvin Ham not DMP'd him. I don't know, but I mean that doesn't matter now. So, he has to figure it out soon. I'll name drop someone who I think I feel fairly positive about. I think he's not at like A tier yet, but I think Rui Hachimura has like some things to be proud of. I think offensive efficiency, he still needs to work on being more efficient. Because you look at the box scores and you kind of worry about he went 1 for 5 from 3. I don't forgive him for that. That was kind of bad. But he's getting more involved. He's allowing himself to get more shots. And most importantly, his rebounding game is actually improving under the JJ Redick tactic. And I am just really excited that even if he's playing like poorly in certain aspects, he's still helping with the boards and he's still diversifying his game. Even if it doesn't always translate, he's diversifying it. And I just really hope that as long as it translates in time for the regular season, that I think Rui has something to be proud of.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I'll speak on Rui. I think he looked great. He was playing aggressive, both offensively and on the glass, which is something we need to see consistently throughout the season. And yeah, I will say his shot definitely looks different. I noticed it a lot more last night than I did the first night. It looked like he was jumping a lot more in his shot. I don't know how to explain it, but I mean, it looked smooth. It looked clean. He was comfortable with it. He was getting to the paint as well, finishing, which is something we always want to see from Rui too. He's really learning how to use his size to his advantage and more than scoring and on that glass too. So I definitely agree about Rui. Max Christie, yeah, it sucks that he really missed a whole year of development as a rotational piece because Darvin Ham just refused to play him for some odd reason. And we talked about it last year. There was moments where Christie played great defense. He played great in that catch and shoot role. He had a great stretch. But when he got injured, Darvin Ham really just threw him away. After that, he's like, you know what? Nah, we're done with you for the whole season pretty much. So he never really got his opportunity to make mistakes, to grow with the team. And now he's put in this situation where he is kind of like, six men off the bench really in this type of unit. And he has to perform, and he's not used to, being aggressive. So he definitely has to – we have to account for that as well. Like, yeah, he's going to make mistakes. I just hope the coaching staff is working with him and kind of getting his confidence up as well. But I don't know, man. I think this Lakers team, we have a very interesting season upon us. It's going to be a lot of emotional nights. I will say that. It's going to be some fun ones. There's going to be some really bad ones. I can already tell. But I don't know. It's definitely going to be interesting to watch. I will say, though, I don't know if you guys seen the news of that Scorpion trying to take out LeBron James from Twitter this morning. But I'm glad that King James was able to defeat the Scorpion and survive another day.
That's crazy. I saw the Scorpion news and like I remember my partner texted it to me. He was like, "Did you know that like the white scorpion is like one of the deadliest like types of scorpions out there?" And I was just like, "Ooh, I did not know it was that serious." But very grateful that he's okay. Very safe. But I think it's just gonna be really interesting to see what this season turns out to be. We could be anywhere from as high as a 4 seed if everything goes well, but we can go as low as like being in the play-in again if things just get a little bit clunky in the middle of the season. I remember we had a lot of conversations during the summer about the importance of roster changes, the importance of running it back with the team that we currently have, et cetera, et cetera. And I remember that even though I was frustrated with the lack of movement in our roster, that the one thing that kept me like somewhat okay was the fact that we had new coaching tactics and we had a new staff and we had new people in charge. And now that we're at this level, my main question, I guess, is just how far can like a new coaching staff take us? Because it's so clear that we're doing better, but we're not getting consistent results because it's kind of like what you said earlier, Earl, where it's just like some of the players that are being plugged into certain techniques and tactics, they're not doing the job at a consistent level. So I guess it just kind of goes into like how big of a miss is it really going to be, the fact that we did so little during the summer off season? Like how much of a miss is that going to end up being, and how much is it going to bite us in the butt during the regular season and if we make playoffs?
Man. I think we got to make a trade before the season starts, bro. That sounds crazy. I know the season's next week, but dog, we got to make something happen. I really, and this is no hate against D'Lo, but D'Lo can get traded tomorrow. I wouldn't really be sad. Like, not trying to be mean. I think at times he is a good piece for our team. He can help contribute, but if an upgrade can come with shipping D'Lo out, I think you have to do it like sooner rather than later. I know we'll talk about trade rumors and stuff in a little bit, but there are some names out there. Obviously, nothing's concrete, as it never is with the Lakers. It's easy to put out reports just to get some buzz on social media, I'll say. So that's that. But what I will say is, if there is any value for D'Angelo Russell where you can add on a potentially another scoring option, I think that could be beneficial to this team. We'll figure out the point guard situation. I just think if you have the opportunity to upgrade your roster in any type of way, and you have to ship out a guy like D'Lo, maybe somebody else with it, maybe those picks, whatever, you do it. I think you have to cut losses here and there. We'll figure out the details later. That's what Lakers are. Lakers, you got to realize, the Lakers, picks or not, the Lakers are always going to find a superstar to come join the organization, just off of prestige alone. We may go through a dry spell, whatever, where we have losing seasons, but there will always be somebody big playing for Los Angeles. And I think when you put it into that perspective, at this point, we have to finish optimizing this era of basketball. I'm not saying go out there and waste these picks, but I would try to get a balance of somebody who maybe, not saying they're young, but maybe they're considering staying past this era and build with Anthony Davis and the Austin Reeves type future. So that's my thought process on it. I don't know about D'Lo. D'Lo is just too like, he's a little bit on and off for me, man. I don't know. It's like some days he wants to be aggressive. Some days he's just a little bit too casual for me. I just don't know. Unless he goes off tonight, I don't know. I might have thoughts about D'Lo. Not gonna lie to you.
But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I think once I speak, we can turn it over to Alan if he is ready, as he does have some camera issues, but we'll still be on the mic. But it'll be interesting. What you said something about D'Lo. I don't disagree necessarily. I mean, I think it's just a matter of like, as long as we trade him for like an actual asset for the team, that's all that really matters, because it does get really frustrating, the lack of consistency we get from D'Lo. It does get frustrating, the stagnancy in defense that we get from D'Lo. He looks a little better this preseason than he did in the last year's playoffs, but like that's a very, very low bar, honestly, especially for D'Lo. He's supposed to be our third, maybe fourth option, depending on how you rank Austin Reeves. So it's kind of just like making sure that like if we're gonna trade someone who's really frustrating us, like we should definitely make sure that they're actual assets. But I think it's just a matter of getting creative on like what our team can really do with the people who are available.
Yeah, like you guys speak about like D'Angelo Russell, and shout out to Cadence/True Takes on the Playoff Sports Network. Check them out. That's where we'll be joining them for Laker streams/Laker games. And like one thing that I always seen from D'Angelo Russell, you guys mentioned how he's just being D'Angelo Russell, and I don't say that's a bad thing, but that's just a thing in which he's not progressing and he's not playing at which a level that you can say he's improved as a player. Like going back to at least the last game versus the Warriors, one thing he did do, he got 7 rebounds. And where is a game or where is at least a time where we remember D'Angelo Russell got 7 rebounds? That's a rare sight in my opinion. But like I said, he's doing the bare minimum in this case. So even Caden talked about how he could potentially be a trade asset. And I also mentioned how like during these preseason games, we haven't had a 3-and-D wing, or we haven't had a perimeter defender. Of course, Jared Vanderbilt is out due to injury, but if D'Angelo Russell is still being D'Angelo Russell, then eventually, in my opinion as well, like we should throw him in a trade block to upgrade and get a 3-and-D wing. Like, of course, Gabe Vincent isn't great, but I think he's done well enough, not as currently within his Lakers rotation, but career-wise, Gabe Vincent has proven that he can be a starter and step up to play with possibly a LeBron James, AD, Al Reeves, and etc. So, just like D'Angelo Russell could be on a trade block if he's still being just D'Angelo Russell. Like he needs to average nearly 18 to maybe 20 plus points per game this season, and like I said, improve defensively because he got caught a ton of times off cuts and slip screens from the Warriors offensively.
I agree with you. I think he's just coasting right now. And in a season where we didn't make any moves, you can't afford to do that. Like I know it's preseason we talked about, but we see guys go out there and play good. Like you're only gonna play a certain amount of minutes, so why not go out there and give your all? Like I just compare it to Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves knew he was on a minute restriction. I could tell he knew he was on a minute restriction because almost every time he got the ball, he was putting it up. Whether he made it or not, he was trying to take and make smart shots, put people in the right place, and like take it serious. Like this is a time for us to build more chemistry, get into the flow of the game. D'Angelo Russell, I barely see him even attempt a shot. Really kind of until that second unit where LeBron James went down to the bench. Like I need to see D'Angelo Russell be aggressive. Like we talk about this all the time. The reason why fans are okay with D'Angelo Russell at times is because he does win us regular season games. He does. At times he does that. But when the playoffs come around, it's kind of a different story. It's just inconsistent. So we just want to see some type of change. Like I agree with Alex. We definitely, and Allen as well. Like we see him doing like little things different, like rebounding. That's cool. I like to see that. Guys being aggressive on the glass. I've seen a little bit more defense from him as well. But we need that scoring. Like in a game where the Warriors were pretty much leading us the whole game, we need D'Angelo Russell to be aggressive. Like we've seen those possessions where he was going back and forth with Curry. I'm like, bro, let's see some more of that. Like he was hitting those shots. I just need to see confident D'Angelo Russell. Like when you're hot, you got it going, be aggressive, especially in those lineups where you're kind of one of the more main scorers. Like we said, sometimes third option, sometimes fourth scoring option, depending on who's on the floor, sometimes first or second. So I just think I kind of agree with shout out to Mal in the chat. I could see it being his time to go. I could like I said, if I was to open my phone and see he was gone, I probably wouldn't be sad. I would appreciate it. Hey, good. I don't know. You did your thing in the regular season, cool, and we'll move on. Like, and that opportunity at the trade deadline too. I still think. I know I was saying hold on to him. I was really strong on that, but like if you had the opportunity to get Murray without giving up anything else but D'Lo and a picker or whatever, maybe you would have done it. I don't know. So we'll see what happens. I think D'Angelo just has kind of I don't even know if I can use the word proven anymore. I feel like he's been doing that the last season and a half. So I don't know what to call it at this point.
I think D'Angelo Russell is such a difficult player sometimes to kind of talk about and discuss in terms of his role because like he has moments where he is a good basketball player. He has multiple 20-point games. He sometimes has energy here and there. And like he's starting to get to a point where it's just like if he's not scoring, at least he's doing something else. But it's kind of like what we've been kind of pointing at earlier. It's like we kind of expect a little more from D'Lo because he is a pretty high up option. He is our bona fide starting point guard. So we expect a lot more from him than just leveling up on the things he was extremely weak at. It's a good thing he's doing that, but I think the reason why people were so high on trading him was just a matter of we put a lot of expectations on someone in D'Lo's role should we go to someone who is actually more likely to be able to handle that? Because people are starting to question, can D'Lo handle the amount of how much is how much he's responsible for his role, like, and like there's more and more doubts coming up. Like, it doesn't matter how many 20-point games he has here and there. It doesn't matter how many 3-point shot streaks he goes on. It doesn't matter how many regular season games he wins, but it's been a multiple end to the story that he just kind of phases out during the playoffs, and or he kind of just becomes a shell of himself when things don't go his way, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the reason why people want to trade him so much is because he has a responsibility, but we need to look for someone who's more likely to fulfill those responsibilities.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he's just not consistent enough. Like you said in the chat, like Alex is saying, like it's not that he's not a good player. It's just what this team needs is a consistent guard who produces night in, night out. And D'Angelo Russell just doesn't provide that stability for us, especially in this era of LeBron and AD, where it's like win now. Like everybody here on this roster has to contribute, or we're not gonna win. Like guys had their opportunity in the playoffs. We could have easily won those games, and a big part of it, I hate to put it all on D'Lo because it wasn't all D'Lo's fault. But my goodness, going out there and scoring 0 points. You mean to tell me if you scored 5 points, we win that game? You scored 6 points, 2 threes, we win that game? Like other games where he had good scoring games, it's like, oh, me, like I did it, I came up. But the games when we lose, it's just false hopes and Discord conversations. Like it's a lot with D'Lo. I'm sorry, not to go off on D'Lo. It sounds like I'm hating, but I like D'Lo, man. He embraces the Lakers nation as far as like he knows what we are. We want production. We want to see you produce, and he understands that. But my problem with him is you're not showing us anything different. Like we need to see the improvement part. Like, that's a part of the journey. Like it's okay that you're cool with the fan base and stuff like that, but if we're being honest, a lot of people aren't really cool with you because you're not producing, respectfully. So I don't know. It's just a lot with D'Angelo Russell. Like I said, if he stays on this team, I just want him to play at his highest level. So we know what that is. Like we've seen him be able to take over moments. We've seen what he was like in Brooklyn. That season in Brooklyn, he played great basketball. We've seen flashes when he's on the Lakers when he plays great basketball. He just has to do that at a consistent level. Not saying he has to go out there and get 40, but you have to contribute some type of way. If your scoring's not there, grab rebounds. If your rebounding is not there, get assists. If your assists aren't there, then you're a scoring option. You have to always be doing something on the court, or you're just a negative asset to the team. So I don't know. I think D'Lo definitely is up there. I will say I know we've been talking a lot about not negativity, but problems with the Lakers. I will say Anthony Davis looked like a great solution to the Lakers. He looked like 2020 AD. Post game was there. He could not miss a mid range. Getting to the paint, slashing, free throw was back a little bit. I think he missed one or two, but yeah, he just looked comfortable out there. He looked confident, and that's the Anthony Davis I like to see night in, night out. Like if they're gonna put a young guy on you like Trace Jackson, you have to attack him every single time you get that ball. Post up, make a play. The ball runs through you. So I like that AD was aggressive. He played great. 24 points? I think maybe around 12-ish rebounds, something like that. He played great. So that gives me a lot of confidence. LeBron, he's Bron. I know he's going to be ready when the season starts, but we talked about AD transition and being the guy on this team. I think last night he definitely showed that the offense can be ran through him. So, like you said, we're just looking for everything around the edges to kind of roughen out. So we'll see what happens. I'm not really confident in our bench at all right now, unfortunately. And the season starts next week, so we'll see what happens.
Will Quincy Oliveri come back to save it? Just kidding. Just kidding. No, but what you were saying about AD, I genuinely think that he's getting to a point where like he is gonna have to be the number one option very soon. This isn't even anything against Braun. I think even though he had kind of a struggle in the last game, like he's still definitely a top option. He's still at such a high level despite pushing 40. And I think the LeBron is gonna be a main vessel for the Lakers offense, no doubt. But unfortunately, we do know that like there is gonna be a chapter post LeBron. I hate to say it, but it is true, and it's nice to see that Anthony Davis is finally ready to kind of take the reins and like step up, because I remember these were the type of conversations that we were struggling with maybe 2 seasons ago. I think last season and like going into this preseason and with the Olympics during the summer and all that, he's really showing that like AD is ready. He is ready to really take the reins and to be the number one option whenever that time is coming through. And in some games, he has been the number one option. I think this preseason game is one of the examples where like the offense was really using AD as like a proper vessel. I'm looking, he had 71% field goal. He had 14 field goals in under 30 minutes, which not bad at all. His mid-range is coming back. He was on a hot streak at 1.2. And obviously in terms of the close range offense, like obviously he has that down ever since he's been really honing in on the center role lately. I do wish that we had a little more center depth so that we could play around with AD being at the 4 and being at the 5, especially because we did see those mid-range moments. So if that is coming back, I would love to see a little bit more experimentation. I just don't know if the roster is equipped enough to do that, but I'm extremely happy with what I've been seeing from AD. I'm not too scared for Braun at all. I think he'll be ready by the time the season really starts up. I'm sure he will be. But yeah, it's the bench and it's the second string, third string that is just like a major fall off from what we have in our starters and in our core players. I think I'm just curious, like, and like Alan, you can answer this too, but like, who do you have confidence in from our second and third string unit right now? Like, who are you confident like has the ability to step up? And who do you think doesn't?
For right now, I would say Dalton Connect, and I saw shout them out to about Max, and I agree. Like Max is one of the guys, but going back to last game, Max didn't do too much in my opinion. Was he? He didn't. Was it impactful? Was he had like 4 or like 2 points? He barely got the ball, and even you can say even created his own shot. So it's like it's gonna be an adjustment for Max, in my opinion. Just looking at how he came off the bench for the Lakers, and he's like I said, wasn't too impactful. And but Dalton, super impressed with him. Like was he had like I think 16 or 19 last game versus the Warriors. Was an amazing catch and shoot player. They ran a couple plays for him and he excelled. Now he did start slow a bit, and when it went to at least the later quarters, the third and the fourth, he started getting hot. So like I said, it's also an adjustment period for him. But for me, like looking at at least our bench, Dalton Connect excites me the most.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Dalton Connect, Max Christie. If I'm being honest, those are the only, probably the only 2 names that really excite me off the bench. I think both of those guys will contribute a lot this year. I think Dalton Connect is going to be naturally easier for him because he's used to being the main guy on a team and coming in and being a scoring option. I don't think Max Christie is used to that so far in just in his basketball career, probably outside of high school for real. So I definitely think he has to kind of retool in his offensive game and find out how he can be a productive product out there on the floor in any lineup he's in, whether that's rebounding, defense, scoring. Definitely, I think if we're talking about 6 men off the bench, you can't finish a game with 4 points. I think Max Christie, your floor should be 10 a night. Like I don't think that's too much to ask for. He has a good 3-point shot. He can get to the basket pretty easily. I think Max Christie has to have it in his head, like, hey, no matter what happens tonight, I'm going to at least shoot enough to get 10-plus points a night and make sure I contribute on the defensive end. Now, Dalton Connect, this game just seems to fit perfectly. Like, there's a lot of shots that he's going to get in the regular season that he's not always going to miss. There was one where Brown was like I think he was on the right baseline, and he darted over to Dalton Connect in the corner. He missed it, but those are opportunities that he's going to get. There's not a lot of players on this team who can just make catch and shoot threes like that. Dalton is one of those guys. Like you said, he's kind of like a heater. Like he has one of those burner abilities, I call it, where he can go for 3-4 shots in a row if he gets hot. So, and his confidence never wavers. He can go and miss 4 shots in a row. He'll take 8 more and make 4 of those. So I think Dalton Connect definitely has that dog in him, and we're going to see a lot of it this year. I'm just ready for the LeBron to Dalton Connect lob. I know it's coming. It may not be regular season. Maybe it's opening night. I'm super excited to see what that looks like, but I think he's going to get a lot of opportunities early on because the bench, I'm sorry, is awful. So he's going to get the elevation off rip a lot. faster than we probably thought. So I don't know. People that stay far away. Cam Reddish, he's like a question, bro. I don't understand. Like Cam Reddish, the first shot he took was a confident in rhythm three. That was the first shot he pulled, nothing but net. And then he just shells away from it. He doesn't get aggressive at all for the rest of the game. So I don't know if it's a confidence thing for him, but every time he's played in the JJ Redick system, he's got an easy shot to start the game, and he's made it. And then he just completely goes away from his offense. So I don't know. He's the biggest question mark for me off the bench. And then after that, it's just a huge drop off. No offense. So we'll figure out what happens next, but that's what I got.
See, that's why I asked that question early, because notice how we only said like 2 names off of a 15-man roster where we need to make at least a 9-man rotation. We said 2 names, and we agreed on the same 2 names as 2 bench guys who we think are ready to step it up. I said my piece on Max already, but like I do agree, like he just has to work on kind of being more involved in the offense, especially on the NBA level. He sometimes gets passive. He sometimes doesn't really like scream out for the ball or just like really let it be known that he's open. That's the only thing he really needs to work on. I think that'll elevate it a lot. But I think Max is definitely ready to at least come off the bench and like have a significant role. I think for Dalton, it's kind of like what was said earlier. I mean, he played 4 seasons in the NCAA. He kind of had a seniority role with, I believe it was Tennessee that he was drafted out of. So he had a seniority leadership role. He was really doing a lot in terms of getting involved. He was a main vessel for that team. And I think that his seniority and his experience in the NCAA is going to help him a lot, on top of the fact that not only is he has the opportunity to be a really great shooter, but he's a pretty versatile scorer. We've seen him take it to the rim. We've seen him get aggressive against some of the NBA centers here and there. And like that's just fun to see. I think my one question for Dalton, I think this is a normal question for any rookie. He had a significantly better performance in the 4th quarter when it was like exclusively second, third string unit versus when he was brought off the bench in the first 3 quarters, where it was a mix of second string guys and some of the starters, just like the core rotation. This is a normal problem, a normal question, a normal concern for a rookie to have. It's just making sure that like he can find a way to be efficient when he does play in the rotation, because he's a very high volume scoring guy, and like I like that he's just does not give up on the ball at all, and I think that's really nice. It's just figuring out like how can you contribute once you do get into the real NBA regular season, once you are up against that core rotation, once you're given that responsibility. Can you have that 4th quarter performance? Can you translate that into against like real core rotations? Can you do that or not? If he ends up struggling with that, I'll understand, because he is a rookie after all. But because he is most likely going to be put in a position where he will be playing against like real veteran NBA guys, I hope that is something that he's at least thinking about and trying to improve on with his game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Dalton Connect, he has a unique opportunity. I think you said it best. He has to get more comfortable with scoring against the actual like rotational NBA talent, because those are the shots he's going to have to take and make. Like if LeBron James hits you in the corner, you miss 5 of them. Not saying he's not going to trust you anymore, but that ball is probably going to be a little bit more hesitant for him to get you that shot in the corner. So I think obviously he's a rookie, he has a lot to learn, and maybe it's just the physicality. Obviously, some of those guys are playing a little bit more physical than the other rotational guys. So I think he just has to be confident. You have to have the same confidence you have in the 4th quarter versus guys like around your level than you do versus the starter. So I think once he learns that, I think once he does that and he's able to kind of slow down his game a little bit, then we can start seeing him take that next step. Yeah, Rich Paul, he doesn't like us talking about his people. But yeah, I think, I'm excited to see what he does this season. Should be fun. But other than those guys, I think I almost forgot that we had Christian Wood in Vanderbilt. So Once we get those guys back, obviously my list will update. But right now, those two guys are there. And honestly, I think that's fine. Because once you think about it like that, you add those two guys, boom, Dawson Connect, Max Christie. And then after that, Christian Wood and Vando, then I'm a lot more confident in that first four off the bench. So I think it's experimentation at this point. But those two guys, definitely, whether it's been consistent or not, they've shown me that they're the more realistic options to be first four off the bench, even with Jared Vanderbilt and Christian Wood coming back. But we know he's gonna throw Gabe in there too. Sorry.
Yeah, we kind of knew that. That's such an interesting point that you brought up. Vando and Christian Wood are going to be really, 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 really important for us once they come back. It's so unfortunate that they both have like these medical issues that are getting in the way of their play. I hope they're recovering the best they can, and I hope that we get honest progress from the team as to how they are doing, because that is something we've talked about on our episode before. But no doubt, I do think that for Vando, obviously his defense is on top for the Lakers. Maybe besides AD, he's like our best defender, no doubt. One of our smarter defenders too. He does a really good job guard. He can low key guard 1 through 5, although some positions he's better than others, obviously. But and on top of that, offensive boards is going to be such a huge thing for us. Thankfully, Rui and Dalton especially are like really helping take some of the pressure off in that terms. But like Vandal's going to be such a huge help in terms of rebounding, especially offensive boards, once he does come back. And then as for Christian Wood, I mean, it's just the fact that he's pretty slow on the defense. I'm not going to lie about that, but I think he's a little more versatile both ways. I think I remember he worked very well with AD, and I think it's because both of them could kind of switch off on like who takes on the 4 and who takes on the 5 on both sides of the floor. And I think Christian Wood, he's a little bit more versatile too. Like he can get stuff close range, but he can also space himself a little bit more. If he needs to shoot, he'll shoot. And there's just a little bit more to Christian Wood's game than Jackson Hayes. I'm sorry, Jackson Hayes. But it's true. And I just think that even though Christian Wood is not like a super high level center, and obviously we're going to have to keep looking in the market or something like that to see if we can really elevate the center lineup, I think Christian Wood still does bring quite a bit more to his game than Jackson Hayes does on both ends of the floor.
Yeah. Of course, going around this, we'll going through our tier list in a bit. Well, I set that up, and also we'll talk about a quick summarization of a rumored trade that is Zach LaVine to the Lakers. And well, like I said, I set up the tier list. What is everybody's thoughts about Zach LaVine? Like I say, potentially to the Lakers, but that rumor that was thrown out there, money wise, it doesn't really work for the Lakers. But I mean, it is an option.
Bring him on. I'm all for it. You know what? I'm here for it. I watched. I know it was a couple games, whatever, but I think he's just something we're missing. He's an aggressive offensive scorer, and I think he'll play well next to LeBron James and AD. We need more guys who are. We talked about this before with D'Angelo Russell. We need guys who aren't scared to go take their shots. I think Austin Reeves does it, obviously at times, but he's not the most consistent. We would love him to be, but he's not. And we add a guy like Zach LaVine, who can potentially go off for 30-plus points a game. Well, now you have 3 guys on your roster who can potentially average around 20-plus if given the right opportunity. So I think having him as a bona fide scoring option will be great for this team. Now, all the details, I'm not sure. I'm not the math guy. I just think that with him and J.J. Redick, Zach LaVine might cook. Like, he's a really good three-point shooter. I know people know him for his athletics, his hops, and stuff like that, but he's a really good three-point shooter. So if we get Zach LaVine in that J.J. Redick system, he's getting the same catch-and-shoot opportunities that Dalton Connect and Austin Reeves have been getting, I'm confident that he will knock those down from that pass from Ron. And then what it causes is less double teams from those guys in the post. Like, you can't double-team AD. You can't double-team Bron. We have Zach LaVine sitting on the corner who can take it to the paint or shoot a 3. Like, he can handle the ball, create his own offense. So I love the idea of having Zach LaVine. I know defensive concerns. I think we figure it out, man. We'll find a way to defend. we can find a way. So if we can get Zach LaVine, I know. Shout out to Jake. I seen him on Twitter talking about it too before. Just it's Anthony Irwin. He hasn't had the best track record with reporting Lakers news and trade rumors and stuff like that. But if it is true, I'm down for it. I don't know how you get it. Don't know the details, but I'm down to figure it out.
I think I'm gonna argue a little bit differently because, like, I do agree that you can see some sort of offensive value in Zach LaVine. I think no doubt having a third really, really reliable scorer can help, but he is pretty versatile in his scoring too. And I think he has a great physicality when he's healthy. I think that is no doubt. I do think that his contract, kind of mentioned earlier, is probably going to be his biggest concern. We do have players that we could definitely give up if we wanted to really go for Zach LaVine, but like how much are they gonna ask? They're probably gonna ask for so much, considering what Zach LaVine's contract value is, considering his value to like the Bulls team, and like it just I think maybe the Bulls are like kind of ready to move on, but like we're not sure yet. Just contract disputes and overall value that he's at right now, on top of the fact that he does have his defensive concerns as well, and things that are kind of non-scoring. You have to put a little question mark on Zach LaVine here and there. We already have some struggles with defense with our current rosters, so I guess it's just a question of like, will Zach LaVine make it worse, keep it the same in terms of the problems we have, or will it be the same? And will it be worth it considering the possible costs of getting him? And also, I will say that the source is Anthony Irwin. The source is Anthony Irwin, and I feel like those that are on Lakers Twitter, they have their suspicions on Anthony Irwin. I'm not gonna say anything. I don't want to start beef. I do not want to like air out any feelings towards Anthony Irwin. That is not me. But I do know that like Lakers Twitter, um, he's a little bit of a polarizing figure there, and like sometimes his narratives are real, sometimes his narratives are not. And considering that Zach LaVine has kind of been a name that gets brought up every year for the past like 3 seasons, I understand why people are skeptical. It's not a terrible idea. I mean, if Zach LaVine does come in, I'll welcome him and I'll like find the good in it because he is an offensive powerhouse, no doubt. It's just there's a lot of other things that do cast a shadow of doubt that I personally feel quite a bit.
Like I said, it's gonna be tough money wise. The only options that I could see being traded, at least to match his money, would be D'Lo, Rui Hachimura, Jalen Hood-Schifino, and of course those minimal contracts in Jackson Hayes or Cam Reddish. That'd be sort of a one-for-one deal in terms of Lakers and Bulls. But most likely, the Lakers do want to get Zach LaVine or are interested in Zach LaVine. They would have to involve a third team in that trade, and we all know third team trades are pretty tough because their team for sure is going to want equal value, similar to as the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, I'm looking at the numbers right now. I'm not saying it's impossible, but if you're trying to bring them on, you got to give up a lot. Like the minimum is D'Angelo, Rui, and Gabe. And then you still have probably, I mean, if you did those three guys, if they were to take those guys, you lose size in Rui Hachimura. I mean, that's our 6'9", I think 6'9", maybe 6'10", 6'9". Small forward, power forward, flex player we have. You lose. I don't care about losing Gabe Vincent, not gonna lie, and I wouldn't lose sleep about losing D'Angelo Russell. So if that's a combo, we would just have to worry about parting waves with Rui Hachimura, which I feel like he could have a good season, but there's a lot of Lakers fans out there that feel like he wasn't producing at a high level last year that maybe could like some type of trade like this. So we could go like D'Angelo, Rui, Gabe, maybe obviously first round pick or picks will have to be involved with a deal like this. But in a world like that, could it happen? Potentially. Is it likely to happen? I just don't know. I don't know if Rob Pelinka will be that aggressive. But like I did it through the trade generator. I mean, as far as numbers work, if you did D'Lo, Rui, and Gabe, it could go through based on numbers. Obviously, picks will have to be involved too because it is for Zach LaVine. But would you guys be willing to give up that to bring in Zach LaVine? My answer is yes, maybe. I don't know. The Rui thing hurts me a little bit, but everything else, I think it could benefit us.
I think the trade talks surrounding the Lakers is always so funny because it's always just like, I will give you like 6 of our mid-tier players, and you give us your 1 star of the team, and we will make it work. I feel like the trade rumors and the trade talks surrounding the Lakers is always so funny because it's like, I give you half our team from like I give you half our team and you give us your star. And like it kind of puts a lot of question marks as to what really goes on with the Lakers in terms of like the market, in terms of like contracting, in terms of all that. That's why I'm always a little bit skeptical of rumors. I know I said something about Anthony Irwin. I'm like that with most sources, to be honest. I'm always a little skeptical about the rumors. I'm always a little skeptical about trade talks and stuff, just because like the Lakers trade conversations are always so crazy to me, honestly. Like it does really feel like our only option is like we got to give up like half our role players to get the 1 star. Um, and even then, we got to figure out how the 1 star will fit into our team and if they even will fit into our team. So I think, again, Zach Levine definitely has his values, but like, I think the Lakers trade talks always, it's always kind of funny to me talking about it because it's just like, how likely is that going to happen? How likely? I think it's still worth talking about, but it's also just something to like, I'm not talking about it in a way that this is like urgently going to happen because the trade talks are always a little bit crazy with the Lakers. But I still do hope that like if there is the right move for us, it will come to us. It better come to us soon because the season starts in a week. Um, but yeah, that's just my overall thoughts on the Zach Levine move. It'll be interesting to say the very least, and I can definitely think of pros and cons. And if he does end up being a Lakers player, of course I'll support him because I am that fan. So yeah, that's all I can say.
Yeah, if we're being honest, I agree with you guys. There's no way this trade can ever go through unless it's a third team. Like looking at the players involved, they don't need a Rui Hachimura if they just paid Patrick Williams. They don't need a D'Angelo Russell if Lonzo Ball is back and you traded for Josh Giddey. Like they don't need a Gabe Vincent because he's Gabe Vincent. Just being honest. So I do agree with you. Like when you put it into that perspective, it's like, dang, like these assets, what can they really get you for real? So it really just depends on what team you're trying to trade with. So for Zach LaVine, I think this is probably our most unrealistic trade target, in my opinion, unless there's a third team involved that is hunting for a point guard and they want to take on D'Angelo Russell and then bring something else of value to the Bulls that they actually want. And they facilitate a 3-team trade for us to get him, which, like Alan said, it's kind of hard to do solely because everybody wants to win in a trade. No one wants to do a trade for fun. Like it's not like fantasy league where you get bored, you want to trade something over. No, you're trying to benefit your team in the best way you can, whether that's future assets, whether that's players that fit your current roster, championship hunting, or you want to go tank. So definitely think Zach LaVine is probably as unrealistic as it gets. So as a Lakers fan, I'm not gonna get my hopes up. Would it be nice to get him? Sure, but I don't think it's happening. So kind of agree with you on that. Lakers media is kind of toxic because you get bought into this, but when you take your emotions out of it, you realize how unrealistic things sound if you're actually sitting in a GM room trying to make a deal like this. So I agree with you, Alex.
Yeah. And now moving forward to our tier list for the Lakers. This will be our updated tier list for our at least the Lakers roster. If you haven't checked it out, check out at least our Twitter. Just search tier list on our profile page, and you'll find our previous tier list on that one. And so yeah, so let's start it off. Alex, choose a name, and we'll move forward from that.
All right. Choosing a name. I think for I'll start with Dalton Connect, and I think last time we had him in the A tier, I still think he's pretty safe in the A tier. I think it's kind of what we talked about, where it's like we still see a lot of room to grow, clearly because he is a rookie, and I do think that he has to adjust to playing on like the higher NBA level just a little bit. I think part of the reason that I didn't mention might be because he's expected to do more defensively, even if he's not like the main defensive player. Just the fact that he's defending NBA caliber guys now is going to be a huge adjustment for him. But he's still like assertive with the ball. He's still scoring pretty well, especially when he is going against second string guys. He's getting himself involved, and he really is showing a lot of really great spurts. And he's actually, the fact that he's making a stronger argument to be in the 9-man rotation every single game, I think that makes him a caliber in terms of preseason. So I'm safe with having Dalton Connect go from A tier to staying at A tier. I don't see the screen, but that is okay.
Yeah, we said Dalton Connect, right? I think I like A, but I could make an argument for S. I feel like if we talk about, because the consistency of what we just talked about with S tier is guys who've shown their ability to score at a high level and or do 2 or more things on the court. I think Dalton Connect is still trying to focus on defense, obviously, trying to work out that part of his game. But I feel like his scoring, his ability to shot make, create for himself, definitely boost him up. So I agree, A tier is cool. But I say one could argue for S tier, but I'm good with starting with A. I'm good with that. That's cool with me for sure.
Yeah, for me, I'm also leaning towards the A tier with Alex. I think that Dalton Connect has been great, but like I said, he's still a rookie, still developing. Like I said, he did start slow a bit when the Lakers threw him into that 9-man rotation versus the Warriors, but he very much improved and got his shot to go inside the bucket and played well. Defensively, he hasn't been a standout defensive player, but like I said, he's still developing, still a rookie. And the mainstay, or at least something that's impressive so far, is his offense. And that's something the Lakers really need as of right now, off the bench and overall, you can say at this point. What you got, Earl?
All right. On redemption week, I'm going Gabe Vincent D tier. It's time that I correct my wrongs. I'm sorry. I put him almost A, but I feel like for the opportunities that he's given on this team, he just doesn't look consistent to me. Maybe I'm overreacting. It has been, a game since the last time. But right now, I'm bottom of C, top of D. So I probably go D, but I'll hear you guys' thoughts.
I wouldn't be mad at either C or D. I rated him at like B earlier, and I think he's taken a major dip. And I know it's just one game, but to see such a major dip like that is a little bit concerning, especially for Gabe, who's supposed to be one of our more seasoned players. I think just the fact that he has some two-way value is what's stopping me from like fully being like D minus terrible, blah 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 blah. But like he went 0 for 5 in the last game. He wasn't nearly as assertive. And he showed more struggle fitting into the offensive tactics in this Warriors game than he did in some of the other games. So C minus to D plus. I think today's game will be a huge indicator as to what would be more accurate. So obviously ranking bound to change with the Suns game coming up, but I agree with Earl. Like a C minus to D plus. Like I'm a little bit concerned with Gabe, honestly, but who knows? That might also be the reactionary side of me, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm also a D on the same plane. Gabe Vincent has been impressive. I think he got like 0 points last game, as mentioned, and he's sort of been like a D'Angelo Russell, where in which he's being himself, but he's not really being impactful. Like he said, he could be a hustle guy, get rebounds, do the dirty work, but besides that, he hasn't been something what the Lakers need off the bench. Like I said, he's doing the minimal, as you can see. So I'm at D right here. We add a couple names to these tier lists, and we got Kyler Kelly, Christian Coloco, Jordan Goodwin, and our next guy, Quincy Oliveira. I got Quincy Oliveira at I'll put him like a C plus near B minus. Like I said, he only played that one game versus the Bucks, but that was a great game versus the Bucks in my opinion. So I'm leaning towards B minus right here. I got B. I've put him in the B area, but he's a fringe B near C area in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll second that. I think B's fair because his best game was worlds away from Gabe Vincent. So I think B minus C plus is definitely there. So I'll take it.
I think I'm okay with B minus, especially. I think we can't give him any higher than a B, considering that Quincy Oliveri only had one opportunity. He only had 9 minutes of gameplay. But I think with the 9 minutes he had, he did the absolute best he could on both ends of the floor, which is why I'm happy with giving him B minus. I mean, super efficient off the bench. Offensively, he was making bucket after bucket after bucket. Really nice 3-point shooting as well. And then he would immediately, after making that shot, he would go into full court defense. And I think it's just really impressive just the amount of pressure he was able to put in, um, going from one thing to another really, really quickly. And I just think that it'll be really nice to see him play more. I kind of wish he played, but I understand that he's not really a high priority player in the pecking order in the Lakers system, unfortunately. But with what the moments that he had, he played at a really great level on both ends of the floor, and like he really brought energy to the Lakers team that I haven't seen since like Lonnie Walker in that one Warriors game. So that was like I have not seen energy boosted up like that to that level until with Quincy Oliveira. So I will happily give him like a B minus. I just can't give him much higher because he only played one game. So yeah.
Yeah, and also we have some breaking news from Shams Charania of ESPN. He said that Kawhi Leonard will be silent for an indefinite period of time prior to the season opener. So let's say best wishes to Kawhi. Yeah, we don't want to see that talented of a player be injured, but at the same time, it's bad luck. He could have rested. I could go back in the past. He could have rested during the time in which the Clippers were fighting for a playoff spot, but he didn't rest. He helped propel them to, was it like a 4th or 5th playoff seed? And yeah. Which player will be next?
I can go. First of all, that's so sad about Kawhi. He's genuinely like one of my except for the fact that he was on the Clippers. We do not claim that. But I genuinely do love his like style of play so much. He has one of my favorite style of plays in general from like the time that I've been watching, because I am like I just turned 22, so I'm like not an unk yet. But I really do love his style of play, and it's so sad seeing just like how health really got in the way. So I just wish the best for him. Um, I'm like, I guess I'll take another easy one. I'll bring a little bit of positivity again. AD is 100% S tier. Does everything at such a high level. Even in the preseason, he's doing it at such a high level, and he's in conversations. He's finally solidifying himself in conversations of being the Lakers' first option. Like the last, like 2 seasons ago, and like before that, he was kind of teeter tottering. We were waiting for the moment for AD to really allow himself to be aggressive on all fronts and take on that role. But last season and going into this season, we're seeing it very well on all ends of the floor. I'm also I feel disrespected that ESPN put him at number 13 in the top 100 players. I personally would have had him at around a 9, but that's okay. I think AD is at an S tier, easiest S tier of my life, honestly.
I agree. I'll keep it like this. S tier for AD. His offensive game looked amazing. Defense was there. Rebounding was there. Anthony Davis is in full season mode, even with the limited minutes he's been playing. So I agree. S tier.
S tier. Easy as that.
Yeah, but I'll go next. This is probably my last one. Unfortunately, I got to head out early today. But what do I want to end with? You know what? I'll end with another. I'm gonna go Jalen Hood-Schifino. I didn't want to miss this one. I've been really piling up the D tier today, and I think he is definitely at the bottom of D tier. I'm sorry, Hood-Schifino on Twitter. I do apologize. I really do. But he just has not shown me any type of growth. Really. besides that first game, 6 assists. After that, he just doesn't look comfortable on offense. Like, I need to see him. If he goes out there tonight and he gets me like a double, no, that's too much to ask for. If he goes out there tonight and gets me at least 10 points, then maybe I'll change my answer to C. But I feel like he just hasn't produced what he should have produced for the draft pick he was last year.
I mean, I agree. I mean, he made a free throw, and that's it. And he didn't. I mean, obviously, we can credit him for like his assist, his passing game, or whatever. But it's getting to a point where so much of his other aspects have become such a deficit to the team that like you kind of have to wonder, like we have to wonder what his value is. Like, yes, his passing is like decent, but outside of that, there are a lot of deficits there that has cost the team quite a bit. And shout out to Earl. Thanks for stopping by. We love him so much. And yeah, that's just what I have to say about Jalen Hood-Schifino.
Yeah, JHS, I think I'd put him above Gabe Vincent in terms of D, just because, like I said, going back to those games versus Minnesota and a couple of those games versus Phoenix, you could say. But he was good. But going back to the Warriors game, he was bad. His shot was looking funky. Wasn't as aggressive / confident, and it wasn't really much of playmaking. Like I said, I saw some playmaking, but it wasn't really anything that stood out. So I put him above Gabe Vincent in terms of in the D tier. Next person we'll talk about is Austin Reeves. Of course, Austin Reeves has been limited with his minutes due to a ankle injury. However, he's done well with the given role and opportunity under JJ Redick. I got Austin Reeves at a B tier. Of course, that's a digression of our S tier previously, I believe so. But I haven't seen something too impressive from Austin from those previous games. Like I said, it could be due to his ankle injury, but so far, like I said, he's done well.
I think that's fair. I think I put him either B plus or A minus. I think dropping him down from S to B is pretty crazy. Is a pretty crazy move, but like, I think considering I'm okay with him at either A minus or B plus, however we want to put it. I think he has been doing pretty well. I think he's always been kind of a high volume scoring guy, and like he has kind of had to work on efficiency. I think that's probably the biggest thing stopping him from being like a solid A or anything like that. But considering that he's on minutes restriction and considering that he's on injury, I still think that he's putting in a lot of work and I still think he's doing well. So either A minus or B plus for me. But I'll let you choose on that because I'm completely fine with B as well.
I think I think we could put him A minus, but we put him over Dalton Knecht.
No.
No. Okay.
I don't think just because like I mean I think Austin had a little bit more time to work on efficiency issues that he has, whereas like Dalton Knecht, we there's a little bit more of like a ceiling room as to like how will his rookie year develop. And if we're talking about preseason only, if we're talking about importance of like an entire season, obviously Austin Reeves will be above. But for preseason, I think I'm a little happier with Dalton Knecht. I think my next question: do we want to put Rui at A or B? I think because I'm asking it more of a question because I put stocks on Rui, so I don't want to come off as too biased. Because my beginning of the season prediction was that it was going to be Rui season, and I don't want to be biased. I just think that he's been doing really well on the rebounding game, and I think that's such a massive improvement. He's like one of the players that I see like massive improvement on like at least one part of his game. I think efficiency still needs to be better, no doubt, and I think defensively he has stuff to work on, which is why I don't want to put him at like an A plus or anything. But I think he did really well in the Warriors game. I think he was just he was really taking the shots as much as he could, whether it goes in or not. And then his rebounding game has been extremely strong. He has 9 rebounds in this last game as well. He had 8, 5, and 6 in the other games as well. So I definitely see an improvement there. So I guess my question is, are we ready to put Rui at A or do we keep him on the B tier?
Me personally, I keep him at the B tier. Going back to at least looking at our last one, we have him at the B tier. I put him near the same, just because yes, he's improved, but it hasn't been a drastic improvement. Like I said, he's still developing. He's still learning the system under JJ Redick, but we haven't seen that Rui Hachimura game yet. We say like, oh, when LeBron James is out, and Rui Hachimura is going to be the second option, or maybe the third option, or like I said, AD is having an off game. We got to see Rui step up, and so far, just for me, I haven't seen that yet. But he's doing well. He's getting double digits, and as you mentioned, he's getting nearly 5+ rebounds a game. So that's great to see. But I don't know. Like I said, in order for me to get near an S or an A, I have to say a drastic improvement. Like you gotta like poster somebody, or like you gotta hit some highlight plays, and Rui hasn't really been a highlight, you could say.
That's fair. I think B plus does make sense. Would you put him above Austin Reeves? Would you move Austin to the B as well? Because I know you had inquiries about that earlier. Or would you rather keep Austin Reeves at the A minus?
Yeah, I'll say like keeping Austin at the A minus. I got Rui be like right here above Quincy. Arguably, yeah, you could definitely put him up like right here, but I don't know. Just for me, I got like right here still.
I'm happy with that actually. There's still a lot more that Rui can improve on. Because he did have significant improvement on rebounding, but I think in terms of like other aspects, he has multiple aspects where there could be little jumps here and there, defense efficiency, etc. So I'm happy with that.
Our next one we can go for is let's talk about Max Christie. I think it's very much a debatable guy. He can go high A, he can go B, maybe even C, but I got him near at the B range just because, like I mentioned last game, wasn't too impactful when given that starter minutes. He's very much maximized those minutes, not a pun on words, but um, so when he come off the bench is just it's lackluster a bit coming off the last game. But I think hoping tonight versus Phoenix, I would like to see him step up. LeBron James, I believe, didn't, or at least wasn't there for early shooting round. So that maybe could mean LeBron James could be out for tonight. But as of right now, Max Christie is going to be off the bench until LeBron James is either announced as a starter or out for tonight's game.
I think that makes sense. I think I'm at either low A or high B with Max Christie as well. I think before the Warriors game, he was a very solid A choice. I think he really stepped up from the second season, no doubt. But as we talked about throughout this episode, we just have to make sure that he continues to step up. Like it's kind of looking like he's gonna be our sixth man in the rotation. That's a pretty high role to have, especially as a third year player like this. So we are kind of putting him at a higher level of like, can he fulfill the responsibility of being that sixth man? And with the Warriors game, some doubts were casted, admittedly. This was a pretty poor game from him. I don't think he made anything, and he only shot the ball like 3 times, which is, I think the fact that he has 0 points is a problem. The fact that he only shot it 3 times, that's also a problem just as big in my opinion. So I think a high B, I'm pretty happy with that. Do we put him above or below Rui though? Yeah, I'm happy with that.
I have below Rui, like I said. Rui Hachimura, like I said, is doing great, but he's just doing Rui things. So when it comes to Max, I would say Rui's being more consistent than Max as of right now. But like I
That
said,
is so
there's
fair.
potential for both guys to be near B/near A range, depending on tonight's game.
Oh, absolutely. I'm pretty happy with that, I think. The C tier is looking pretty empty right now. I'm looking at it right now. The C tier looks a little bit empty. And I'm going to ask about someone who I think could be B, who I think could be C. Do we think D'Angelo Russell has dipped low enough after the Warriors game to be C level or not? Because I'm like thinking C plus right now because like obviously he's a decent scorer, but there's an inconsistency there. And I also do think that obviously his defense is very stagnant, and I also feel like that because that he just has a problem of not fulfilling the responsibilities of being a starting caliber point guard that we need him to be here and there. And I think it's the fact that D'Lo kind of has this thing where he gets really hot in like the third or fourth quarter. I think it was the third quarter in this case, but like we need to start strong. And D'Lo has his moments where he just doesn't start strong. And that's kind of the reason why I'm like harsh enough to put him at like C plus tier is because him not starting strong kind of kills the game on multiple occasions. The only reason why I'm not harsh enough to put him at D tier is because at least he rebounded very, very well in the last game. So I'm thinking like C plus for D'Lo in the preseason, but I want to know what your thoughts are.
Same thing, C. At least my grade, I'll give him a plain C, just because, like I said, he's doing D'Lo things. Like I said, the rebounding's great. Getting 6+ rebounds is fantastic. Like I said earlier in the podcast, that's something that we have not seen too much in his game. So it's good to see that him getting 6+ rebounds and hustling, but not enough to earn at least be in that B range. Next guy we can go for is let's go to Bronny James. Let's get a little controversial again about this. Where would Bronny James go for, Alex?
Why are you asking? I thought you were gonna answer that. It's so unfortunate with Bronny because what's so unfortunate about Bronny is that I am the type that would defend his like defense here and there, and he still has like really good moments. But at the same time, he is struggling against the NBA caliber players here and there. He does have his moments where, although he has a high defensive potential and good defensive moments, do we know if he's like a defense caliber guy yet or not? I don't know where Allen went, but that is okay. But I think my main question is that yes, he has defensive potential, and yes, like people are too harsh on him, blah blah blah. But like at the end of the day, he still isn't playing. Like he still isn't playing at like a pretty strong level. I think because like I have to keep in mind that like he has such low standards, but also the fact that he's not really exceeding it by that much. I think Bronny might have to be D plus, maybe. He didn't like irritate me as much as Jalen Hood-Schifino or like Gabe Vincent, but like he is just not fully at like the NBA caliber level, unfortunately. And that's not surprising because he's the 55th pick, but that's just what I think. So maybe like a D plus to D. But I want to know what Alan thinks as well.
Also got him B. I'd probably put him below Gabe Vincent. In my opinion, he'd be the bottom just because he was great in those first two games versus Phoenix and also Minnesota. But I'm gonna say this is AJ Rex. I'm gonna say a problem or his tough situation where he has to give or he's limit Bronny's minutes, but it's just when given those four quarter minutes, Bronny is not really do too much. Like I said, he got a really good layup near the end of that fourth quarter, but besides that, Bronny James has just been a bench player so far. So he's most likely will develop in the G League as soon as the Lakers are heading to that season opener. But Bronny James hasn't really improved, in my opinion.
Yeah, this isn't me hating on Bronny James at all. I know a lot of the media likes to kind of take the James name and like glorify like just how not ready he is, but like I've defended him before. I think he has high defensive potential and he has the assets to eventually become an NBA caliber player, but I don't think that's going to happen this year. I think he needs to focus on development. And if he wasn't going to develop in college, then I think the G League is a better chance for him because like I do want him to be an NBA caliber player, and I think he can, but just not this year. Who should I put next? Okay, I'm gonna do like the easiest D tier of our life because Kyler Kelly is there for some reason. So that is like the easiest D tier, unfortunately. I mean, he really showed up in like the first game. He was too slow on defense. He like did not have that much longevity horizontally or vertically. He wasn't jumping as much, which is crazy considering that he's like 7 foot something. You still gotta have to jump if you're gonna have a post game because you're gonna be in there with other 7 foot guys. Um, so yeah, that's just what I think is that. And then he got a flagrant in that preseason and immediately got benched. So unfortunately for Kyler Kelly, probably like one of the easiest D tiers we could probably give out, unfortunately.
Yeah. For me, joining him is going to be Khalid, Max, and Jordan Goodwin. At least to speed up those quick names. As they have limited minutes, but within those limited minutes, been all right, / not impressive. So, yeah.
I'm happy with that. I think yeah, I think that's just how it is. Like with these people, like they barely played and with what they did play with, they just did not show up. They did not show that much. I think Maxwell Lewis especially disappointed me because I was hoping that he'd kind of make a developmental jump. I feel like if anything, he's regressed. So yeah. I'll talk about Armo Traore. I think in the times that he's played, he's been pretty decent, but he only played like throwaway minutes in 2 of the games. I can't put him any higher than B or C. I feel like I'm gonna keep him in C tier. Because when he played well. I mean, he was doing a good job with rebounding. I mean, he got some shots here and there as well. And I think he brought a sense of physicality that the second and third string definitely needed. But he played a total of 4 minutes in this game and 9 minutes in this game. He played a total of 13 minutes across 4 games, and he didn't really bring in the energy the same way that someone like Quincy Oliveri did. So I think C, I'm pretty happy with putting him at C. But what do you think?
Yeah, I'm also within that C range for Armo Traore. Limited minutes and not given much of a opportunity, but when he does, he's an excellent defender and very much is a hustle guy. And I think so far, among the 3 players who had the 2-way contracts, now I said we can't give a clear observation to Christian Koloko, but among the 2 guys within Colin and Armel, to be brutally honest, Armo Traore is the only one so far earning that 2-way contract, and I think could be a solid guy in the Lakers G League team. Next person we'll go with is Jackson Hayes. That's another debatable guy. I think he has increased. Looking back at our previous one, we have him at a D, but I think he's earned enough going off the last game and a couple other stuff to be near the C area behind D'Angelo Russell. That's where I got him. How about you, Alex?
I think C to C minus. I think he's made slight improvement in the Warriors game. I think in the D, when we were talking about him in D tier earlier, we basically thought he was just unplayable. We thought Jackson Hayes was just absolutely unplayable. And although I really don't have a lot of trust in Jackson Hayes still now, he got a couple of really good looks on the offense. He got a couple of really good close range dunks here and there. And he did a better job of keeping himself available. What makes me think that he's still at like that C tier is that he still kind of does get bodied by most NBA caliber centers on the defense. And that is, I think, one of his, if not his biggest weakness. So I think that C, because he had slight improvements, but there's still some really fundamental issues I have with his game. I think C. I'm okay with that. And then, all right, let's talk about Cam Reddish. Before he was in our injured category, I think. I think for Cam Reddish, I can't have him much higher than a C or a D, to be honest. I feel like he has like decent defensive moments, obviously. I love that he's a 2. Well, actually, I love that he's a defensive guy. But I was about to say 2-way guy. I don't know if I can call him that because he really cowers on the offense, and I feel like he does that more and more. every single year he's played. He's in year 7 of the NBA, and I feel like he continues to cower more and more and more on the offense, which is honestly kind of sad to see because I know that he's capable. I think that like every game he would have maybe 2 field goals. And I know that he has limited minutes, but you cannot be playing like that if you're fighting for a rotation spot versus Dalton Connect and like some other folks out there. So I think that although Cam Reddish wasn't like the worst player, I can't have him above a C. I might have to put him at like a D, maybe D plus, but probably D. But what do you think?
Yeah, arguably, I think there's some conversation for Cam Reddish to be near C. Looking back at his game log versus Minnesota, he played 14 minutes. He shot 2 for 4, 1 for 2 from 3, got 2 rebounds, finished with 5 points. And then versus the Warriors, he didn't do much. He shot 0 for 2, got 1 assist, and 0 points. So he had a good start versus Minnesota, but really regressed in that Golden State game. I think a lot of people regressed in that Golden State game. So this is going to be a lot of tough judgment as the Lakers did not shoot well versus Golden State. But as JJ Rex says, it's something that you do want happen. You do want it to happen now instead of in the future, and something that he himself as a head coach and also as the players will have to evaluate and be better at. So I put him above JHS, or like, I don't know. I put him like right here. I don't know. He's like fringe or like slash like the near area of these two guys, Gabe and JHS. But yeah,
I think I'm pretty good with that. Yeah, I think just like D plus to D fringe. I think that seems about right for Cam Reddish, unfortunately.
and now we got 2 people left. We have our head coach JJ Redick or LeBron James. Um, I think we can go with LeBron James for this one, and I got him at an A, and I put him. I know it's sort of a controversy, but I'm stuck between putting him behind Dalton Connect, or you could put him above Dalton Connect. Like I said, I won't be disrespectful and put him behind Dalton, but like in my opinion, LeBron James, at least Dalton Connect had a more impressive game than LeBron in that Warriors matchup last time. But look, LeBron James, of course, wasn't being not say himself, but he just wasn't being too aggressive, and that's not spot on him. But it's just head coaching for JJ Redick is trying to ease it on LeBron James into this season. So that's just something to consider when giving his ranking.
Honestly, I'm not going to disagree with you. The only person that deserves S tier after that Warriors game is Anthony Davis. I'm sorry. Like, he is the only one that I think is even slightly worthy of S tier. So I think having Braun at like a high A tier makes a lot of sense. He showed a bit of regression in the Warriors game. He was not nearly as, like, it's one thing that he only had 6 points. It's another thing that he was just nearly not as aggressive and just nearly not as involved as he should have been in that game. But I think I do agree with keeping Braun above Dalton Connect, mostly because when he did perform well in the preseason, I believe it was against the Suns and Milwaukee, I believe. He showed a decently high level and he did it against like an NBA caliber rotation. Whereas like Dalton Connect, because he is a rookie, we have doubts as to whether he can even play and maintain the high level in the preseason he has going into the regular season. We don't really have those questions with LeBron. For obvious reasons in terms of experience, but I think that is, for me personally, enough reason to keep LeBron above Dalton Connect in the preseason ranking.
Yeah, like looking at his game log, going back to the Milwaukee game, he shot 4 for 11. He shot 2 for 4 from 3. He had 11 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. That's very, within 16 minutes, that's very minimal. And then versus Golden State, he had 23 minutes. He shot 3 for 9, shot 0 threes. He got 2 rebounds, 4 assists, and he finished off with 6 points. So compared to Anthony Davis, who had the super elite game, you could say, LeBron as a starter wasn't too impactful in which he could have. But yeah, like I said, that's just a circumstance of JJ Redick sort of being weary with LeBron James and not trying to overplay him in a sense. So yeah.
All right, and I guess the perfect way to round up this tier list is talking about JJ Redick and his coaching in the preseason. I don't know if I can give him anything. I definitely cannot give him an S. I don't know if I can go A tier either, just because like we are 1-3 and our record is looking really bad, and the way that we've been losing has been just like kind of disheartening to see, like how we lose the lead. We'd either lose the lead at the last second or just be absolutely dominated the entire game. But I do want to keep him away from the D tier and the low C tier for sure, just because we see a significant improvements in terms of tactics. We see a much better environment and chemistry within the team because of JJ Redick. I think he has a sounder, more alert sense of the game. He like when you talk to him during the halftime, he can actually talk basketball and actually talk about what he's seeing within the team, and he's able to identify those problems. But part of being an NBA coach is also learning how to translate all of that into the live game. I think there's still some things he needs to work on in terms of the live game situations. He did a better job of like calling timeouts in runs than Darvin Ham for sure, but he still had some moments where he like hesitated a little too late, in my opinion. I also think that there might be slight disagreements with the lineup, which might also just be due to the roster that he's being given. But I think his tactics are 100% there. He is such a strong tactician and he is a really great basketball mind. He just has to kind of ease his way into knowing how to deal with live NBA games from a coaching perspective. So maybe like somewhere in the B is how I feel right now. Like I don't think he's done stellar, but he's doing pretty good and I still see improvements in our team even though that Warriors game was pretty poor from everybody. But I want to know what you think as well, Alan.
Just have to adjust some stuff. JJ Redick, I got him at a C plus, and I put him over D'Angelo Russell. As a head coach, he's like you said, he's shown improvement. He's a smart basketball mind, but at the same time, I kind of got burned by the Lakers third quarter versus the Warriors. They were stagnant. They had trouble finding their offense. They were of course calling plays, but when those plays were called, they weren't successful. You could say, and like I said, there's a couple moments where Dalton Connect did very good, and like I said, he talked about how he also wanted to get the ball to Anthony Davis at times, and Anthony Davis was successful when given the ball. But like I said, there's a couple moments where I was just burned by and just like kind of frustrated by the coaching. Defensively, they weren't the strongest, so defensively is not fully on JJ. Of course, the assistant coaches have a play in that and how they want the Lakers defense to be. But at the same time, JJ Redick is head coach, and defensively, I haven't been enthusiastic nor excited about how JJ Redick's defense has been looking. Like majority of these Lakers defense, of course, they hustle, they get some steals, they are active, but at the same time, going back to the Warriors game, they were heavily relying on the Warriors missing a ton of 3-pointers. Like I kind of talked about it with Caden on the Playoff Sports Network the podcast, the live stream during watching Lakers versus Warriors. The Warriors easy. What was it like? It was like a 5 or 6 point game, but easily that game could have been like 15, a large deficit. So when it comes to the Lakers, they were like I said, highly leaning on the Lakers missing their threes and going back on their end, they weren't very much scoring on the other side. Like I said, they were shooting the ball, but as mentioned, they were inaccurate and had a bad shooting night. And of course, that's on the players, but at the same time, that's on the head coach. Like, you gotta attack the paint after that. Like, if your shot's not going in, draw some fouls, get to the free throw line. So that's some improvements I do want to see from JJ. He's not a bad head coach. He's definitely an improvement from Darvin Ham, but hasn't earned enough to be a B near A tier. So I got him at the C plus.
Honestly, I'm happy with that. I think a C plus makes a lot of sense for JJ Redick. I think that third quarter was not great at all from the Warriors, and I think one of the things that I noticed just in general, The one thing I can critique on his tactics, well, aside from defensive stuff, because I do agree that there could be slight work there. I think when they're using the post as like a vessel for the offense, I feel like sometimes the tactics feel a little bit rushed. There could be usually 1 to 2 more passes that could be made when doing any sort of like post action or baseline action that just kind of become settled for shot chucking contested stuff. Like there are multiple moments where like Braun was like dribbling towards the post, like dribbling into the post, trying to do something. There'd still be like 10 seconds left on the shot clock, but he would just kind of do a contested shot instead of like passing it over to AD, who was like also pretty close range and open and on a better scoring efficiency. And I think that there's a slight bit of rush on the offense when the post is the main vessel. I also think so. I think if they work on that, it could help with a lot of people's games. It could help with Braun's game. It could help especially with AD's game. Arguably, could help with Rui's game as well because obviously it looks like he's doing more than shoot corner threes this season. Um, but I think that overall, JJ Redick has good, decent foundations, but he has a lot to elevate on if he wants to be a top NBA coach.
But yeah, that's our tier list for this week. Of course, we'll have an updated tier list on probably on the next week's podcast. As by then, the Lakers will be playing their first regular season opener versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. And as mentioned, if you haven't followed us and you're checking out this replay or checking us on Twitter, give us a follow on our Twitter at Quest18 Podcast. At Quest18 Pod. Quest 18 POD for those audio listeners. And yeah, this will be posted on our Twitter. Follow us on that. And let's move forward to the season opener a bit. For you, Alex, what are 3 things you're looking at for the Lakers when they do play Minnesota? Like, what are 3 things that are important, where it be the players or also versus Minnesota that the fans do have to look for?
Ooh, we're talking about the season opener, right? Not the upcoming preseason game. So against Minnesota, I think it'll be really interesting to see. Honestly, I think for one, I think I want to see more of an involved defense. I feel like Minnesota can be fairly versatile on the offense. I feel like I know they lost Karl-Anthony Towns, but I still think that like they're probably gonna have Julius Randle as a replacement. And even though in some aspects, Karl-Anthony Towns is maybe a better fit than Julius Randle, I still think that he does bring some sort of versatility to the offense. I think Julius Randle's gonna have a lot of physical moments in the post, especially or going into the paint. I think Anthony Edwards can is gonna shoot a lot, but then also do a really good job of facilitating and just like also physicality is there. I think DiVincenzo with the shooting, especially Mike Conley, if he is ready to go facilitating and shooting. I think there's a lot of versatility that Minnesota has in terms of offensive scoring. So I think the Lakers need to number one up their defensive tactics, and I think especially, and I just say defensive tactics in general because you can split this into 2 ways. Number one, if Jackson Hayes is going to be our backup center, you got to step it up. You're going to have a lot of work, and you can't have AD do all the work defensively there. And number two, in general, we need strong perimeter defenders. Strong people on the ball, strong people to cover the perimeter if they're not on the ball, et cetera, et cetera. So just general elevated defensive tactics is going to be my number one. I think for number two, I think it'll be interesting to see who ends up being our rotation. I think the regular season will be a really interesting look at do we have a regular rotation ready for by the very first game? And I think that'll be really interesting to look at considering that Darvin Ham did not have a regular rotation ready until like 30 games into last year. So it'll be really interesting to see do we have a set rotation going into the regular season against Minnesota? And Minnesota will be one of the tests as to whether that rotation is ready or not. And I think for number three, it's going to be battle of the bench. We need our bench to step up. Obviously, we have our core five. They have their core five, and they're gonna have some really high quality basketball. But a team is not five; it is 15. And even if it's not all 15 players playing, it'll be at least 9 to 10 folks coming off, if not more. So I think it will be battle of the bench. We got bodied by Minnesota's bench in the first preseason game, and I just hope that that doesn't translate into the regular season as well. So those are some of my 3 points: is um, elevated defensive tactics, battle of the bench, and just the state of our rotation. But what do you think?
For my number one is gotta be perimeter defense slash wing defenders, and that's on the Lakers to guard the 3 point line. It's all about these looking at that Timberwolves matchup. They have a lot of 3 point shooters, a lot of guys who can space the floor. Shout out to Julius Randle. Although he's a great 3 point shooter, he's a guy who can shoot the mid range and even attack the paint off the dribble. So, looking at Anthony Edwards, of course, is a 3 level scorer. Michael Conley, if given time, he can make a 3 point year off, like say, the catch and shoot. Of course, Dante DiVincenzo is going to be great when given an opportunity. And Jalen McDaniels, although isn't the best shooter, can make the three occasionally. So it's all about defending the perimeter, in my opinion, within that first game. And the Lakers, like I said, they don't have a 3-and-D wing. They don't have perimeter defenders on this roster. But if given opportunities, and of course JJ Redick does fully assess his team and use their strengths, perimeter defense could be done well if, like I said, given the right rotations and players stepping up and having the awareness to stop Minnesota from being a good 3 point shooting team. Because Naz Reid can be effective versus the Lakers. We've seen it in the past, and we've seen it within that first preseason game versus Minnesota. Naz Reid was going off in that game. So it's all about the Lakers being active defensively and stopping the Minnesota Timberwolves from being a great 3 point shooting team. I think they'll be a fine 3 point shooting team, but in LA, we know that road teams have a hot bucket / hot hand versus us. So that's something else to look out for. Anthony Davis, I think this is a time for him to get a near probably 20+ point game and near a 20+ rebound. I think he got that in the past versus the Minnesota Timberwolves, but I think that was like Rudy Gobert was out or like Cat was out. So now with the Naz Reid, I want to see that matchup: Naz Reid versus Anthony Davis. I want to see Anthony Davis versus Rudy Gobert. AD was successful versus that France team, whether it be Rudy or Victor Wembanyama. But moving forward, this is the regular season. This is different roles. This is not FIBA roles. This is not Olympic roles. This is NBA roles. So you got to be aggressive. You got to play strong and prove that you're legitimately one of the best big men in the NBA. Arguably, he is, but this is a time to make a statement versus that Minnesota team. They don't have two athletic, tall centers. Of course, Naz Reid is tall and athletic, but at the same time, I don't see him as a strong interior defender compared to when they had Cat and that combination of Rudy. So that's something I'm looking out for. Anthony Davis being the best player on that court and on this Lakers roster. And then lastly, I do want to see our guards step up / our bench. I think this could be a lineup where they can shoot well. Like I said, Gabe Vincent, I want to see him shoot 3 for 6. I want to see him be aggressive in the paint, making him the mid range. I want to see D'Angelo Russell being a 20+ point scorer. I want to see Austin Reeves getting nearly 20+ as well. And whoever it be, Dalton Connect or Cam Reddish or Max Christie, I want to see that 2 guard be essential. Like I said, off the bench, someone's have to step up, and it can be all on our starters, and it's all about whoever gets that next up role. It would be Max, Cam, or Dalton Connect. Someone within that guard / wing lineup is going to have to step up, and it's a question mark, but it's a question mark that can be answered in that first regular season game versus Minnesota. So those are my 3 things. It's all about defending, and it's all about 3-point shooting. So, yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
I think those are some really good points. It'll be really interesting to see the 3-point game that ends up happening with Minnesota, kind of what you hinted at earlier, because I think the combination, I think actually the first 2 points really do kind of go hand in hand. Like the fact that so many teams can get such a hot shooting hand with the Lakers is because we do kind of lack in some aspects in perimeter defense. Doesn't help that our strongest perimeter defender in Vando is gone right now, but I hope that is something that we can find improvements on in going into this season. So I do agree. It'll be interesting to see the game from the 3-point line. I think Anthony Edwards has been doing a lot more 3-point shooting as well too. I don't know if it's because it might be because of some lineup changes from the trade, but it'll be interesting to see whether that hurts or helps Minnesota as well. I remember the last preseason game, I saw a box score where he had like 16 3-point shot attempts. So we'll see how that goes versus the Lakers.
And yeah, at least I'll give my score prediction for that one. Like I said, the Lakers' first regular season game is on a Tuesday. Of course, our podcast is on Thursday. I would think we'll have a live stream for that one on the Playoff Sports Network, hosted by Caden and Jake. And of course, any of us from our podcast will be joining that if we are available. And as always, follow our link tree, follow our social medias, follow our Twitter at Quest18Pod. And at least for you, Alex, what was your score prediction? I got mine being the Lakers winning, beating the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'll go 118 to 112.
Okay. I know a lot of people are going to say Minnesota's going to win. I'll say if the Lakers play their cards right, I will say the Lakers win. And I think it'll be a fairly high scoring game. I think it'll be like 120 to 116 or something like that.
But yeah, as mentioned, the Lakers have a preseason game tonight versus the Phoenix Suns. I saw a report that the Lakers are going to focus on this one and have it be a true 9-man rotation, as JJ Redd could say. And we'll likely see who will be our main players tonight versus the Phoenix Suns. It's not sure that LeBron James will be playing. They said he wasn't there for a shoot around, but I'd imagine he'll be healthy enough and will be ready to play versus Phoenix, who I believe themselves will be having a Yusuf Nurkic, who will making his debut with Phoenix once again. So yeah, that's something else to look for. The Lakers last also preseason game against the Golden State Warriors on October 18th on a Friday. I don't imagine AD and LeBron will play that game. Say majority are starters, so that'll be a bench/rotation game, and we'll likely see who will be playing in that. And yeah, that's all for this podcast. Thank you for Alex. Thank you to Earl. Thank you all of us for joining this podcast. Thank you for all your comments and questions. And overall, like I said, give us a 5-star review on Spotify. All of our at least podcasts will be at least uploaded in a bit within this week, as I'm still editing a bit onto them. But as always, follow our social medias, our link tree at Quest18Pod. And always, it's Go Lakers. Have a good rest of your day. Peace, everybody.
Peace. Go Lakers.